I think it's time for the 76ers to consider giving up on the process once and for all. Now, not too long ago, on Christmas Day, they beat the Celtics, and I thought that was the turning point of their season. They got to, I believe it was 13 and 17. And ever since then, they've lost 7 of the past 9 games. Joel Embiid has missed the past 5 games with a foot injury. And now all of a sudden, it seems like things are spiraling out of control yet again. They had a bad loss against the Pelicans last week, and Paul George came out in a press conference and talked about how he's bored playing the 5 position because Drummond wasn't playing that night. And of course, Embiid wasn't. And it's just the same narrative around Paul George. He's really good, but can he elevate your team to a championship? I don't know. Look, I know he's been great for the Clippers, but ever since he left LA, Norman Powell has looked like a better basketball player. That's not good. And the Clippers have a better record than the Sixers, and Kawhi Leonard missed most of the season. He just got back. So I'm just wondering at this point, how long can the Sixers continue down this path? Because the schedule is only going to get worse. So let's check this out. They had to play the Pacers on Saturday, who are on fire, playing really good basketball, have turned their season around. The Bucks just had a blowout against the Magic. They blew out the Kings as well, so they're feeling good about themselves. You hope that Embiid plays in one of these games, and you already said he's not playing back to back, so you're going to chalk up one of those as a loss. Then you got to go to Denver on Tuesday, and Denver is going to be up for that game, and who knows if Embiid will play or not. Then you got the Cavs. They'll probably lose to Cleveland. You got to go to Chicago. Not an easy game. Again, back to back. So what do you do if you're in Joel Embiid? So you count probably at least maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 losses. You might lose the next 4 games and be at 15 and 28. Then what do? You got to go to Chicago. You got to play the Lakers, the Kings, the Nuggets, Boston, Dallas, Miami, at Detroit, at Milwaukee. Again, Detroit's not an easy win anymore. They've looked better as of late, winning 10 of their past 13 games. So if I'm the Sixers right now, and I'm going to the trade deadline, do I consider just blowing this whole thing up and just calling this season a wash? Because Embiid can't stay healthy. Paul George misses games, and he comes out in press conferences and talks about his role in the team. And Maxey, if I'm Tyrese Maxey, I'm frustrated. I know his shooting percentages are down this year, but I'm not going to really get on Maxey because he's been reliable, and he's carrying a big offensive load out there where his other 2 co-stars are not available, or they're complaining or talking about how they're bored about fulfilling a role on this team. That's not good. So if I'm Maxey, I'm frustrated. If he decides, you know what, I want out of Philly, I do not blame him whatsoever. It's a disaster. McCain's out for the year, which is really rough because he was looking like a solid rookie, potential rookie of the year candidate. But again, it really comes down to health for the Sixers, and the schedule does not get easier for them. These games coming up is brutal. After Milwaukee, they got to play, Toronto's never easy, Brooklyn. We got to play Boston and Brooklyn. The schedule coming up is just not good. And I think they're going to lose to Indiana. They'll probably lose to Milwaukee. So now you're 15 and 26 going to next week, and now you've lost 6 in a row. Or let's just say Embiid plays in one of them, they win, but now you've lost 8 of your past 11 games. That's tough to swallow. And then you go to Denver. Again, the Cavs are going to be up for that game. In the schedule, it gets a little bit easier after the All-Star break, but are you even in a playing position at that point? I don't know. It's questionable. Maybe you're going to have to really dig deep right now because the schedule is just hard for the Sixers. And I don't know if I feel good right now. I wouldn't feel good as a Sixers fan because, again, I thought after they beat Boston, they got to 14 and 19, I think, okay, they could start to turn things around, but then went back. Lost in Orlando, lost to OKC, lost to New York. I know it was overtime loss, but still, Embiid's not playing. What's going on with his foot? I don't know. The guy's always hurt. I think he hurt his foot on Christmas Day, I heard. So it's like, bro, can this guy ever stay healthy? And Paul George, he's had his moments where he's missed games. He's averaging 15 points for this team. And you need more out of Paul George. We need him at 23, 24 points a night, especially with Embiid out. Maxey's doing all the work. And it's a clown show it's a clown house in Philadelphia right now. It's ridiculous. And Sixers fans, what do we do here? I mean, I'm not a Sixers fan, but what do you guys do at this point? You have Paul George on that bad contract, and Embiid can't stay healthy. Maxey's your best player, but at some point, he might want to leave because this is a disaster. So my question is, should the Sixers just shut down Embiid for the rest of the season? Here's the positives of that. You can get your draft pick, or OKC can get it from me. I think that they finished top six or top seven to get their draft pick. You might as well at this point. I don't see a reason to try to get in the play-in situation because you're probably going to get swept by the Cavaliers, and then you lose your first round draft pick. I think you should just forget about the season. And if they lose the next four games, that should tell you everything. Start trading guys and get some draft picks. Maybe you move off Paul George. I know it sounds nuts, but maybe you do it and go get Jimmy Butler. That could help save the season. Or you just reset and move on from Paul George and try to rebuild it around Maxi and figure out Joel Embiid next year. And if Embiid is still unavailable, or let's just say you get knocked on the second round, maybe you just move off from Embiid. It's just unfortunate because Embiid has not been healthy. He was going to win MVP last year, in my opinion. I think he was the runaway MVP winner until he got hurt against the Warriors. But the guy can't stay healthy. And they've lost four straight. They've lost seven of the past 9 games. And the schedule coming up is brutal. And it's just bad timing because I don't trust Embiid's health. I don't think he'll be healthy enough to fight through those games. And we'll see if Paul George can stay healthy. That's always a question mark. So it's just been a rough season. I would definitely disappoint me for the Sixers because you expected this year for the Sixers to really make a run, at least at the Eastern Conference Finals, or maybe in the NBA Finals, but at least make the ECF. But they might not even make the playoffs. That's not good. And the GM of the Sixers needs to look in the mirror and really ask themselves, where are we going as a basketball team? What are we going to do about this organization? Because it's in a dire place right now. If I was the Sixers, I'd blow it up. I just would. I'd build around Maxi. That sounds crazy, but Embiid can't stay healthy, unfortunately. And Paul George, I don't know about him. It's just been a disappointment. Not what you wanted from a guy you expected to score more per night, especially with Embiid out. And making those comments, I would just move off of him. People probably don't want to trade with him because of his contract, but you got to do something. And I would just try to tank, to be honest. I would just try to get a top draft pick and just go from there if you want to bring these guys back. I mean, it's not looking good right now for the Sixers, and we'll see what happens in the next four games. They're very critical. If they don't, have maybe a winning record or go 500, maybe just consider, time to just go ahead and start over. Definitely not easy for the GM. I mean, it's not an easy spot to be in, especially with the money you invested with these players. But you got to think about the future. I think McCain's really good. Maxi's still solid. So there's some wiggle room right there with those two guys. And you can always get role players. That's not hard to do. Philly's been good at building the roster. It's just finding the right guy, superstar. And Embiid just isn't the same guy. And he's only getting older and more injury prone. And Paul George looks like he's on decline. So, yeah, at this point, Philly, I would just start over. Hope you guys enjoyed this video today. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you feel about the Sixers. Do you think they need to just give up on the process, start from ground zero? How do you feel about Joel Embiid? Do you want to keep him? Should you move off of him? And should they tank the rest of the season so they can get a top draft pick? Love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you in the next one.